Business-to-Business Marketing, Mark 485. Chapter 3, page 7. RFQ and RFP are acronyms for the common business practices of asking a supplier to quote a piece of business. RFQ is a request for quotation, usually associated with an offering that can be thoroughly and quantitatively defined. An RFP is a request for proposal, usually defined by a set of needs, specifications, or outcomes that have greater leeway with regard to the final form or technology of the offering. Distinction from public sector purchasing. This process of issuing an RFP, or an RFQ often runs a little differently in case of government purchasing. Fairness or equal opportunity is often a legislatively mandated goal in structuring the proposal or quote and selection process. The RFP or quote often has to be published in specified newspapers or other outlets. Prospective suppliers have to meet a set of rigid criteria that are often much flexible than criteria in private sector purchasing. This does not mean that marketers are ignored in the design process for the RFP or the RFQ. In these situations, it is critical to fully understand what degree of assistance is acceptable for the government agency and its oversight authorities. Government purchases are often subject to far more scrutiny than private sector purchases. What is considered normal design or development assistance in the private sector may be interpreted as undue influence when addressing public sector's markets. Marketers addressing governmental markets can still establish relationships with government buying centers and assist in designing and specifying the solution. They may face more competition, though, in the selection process. Indeed, they may also face fewer straight rebate situations due to legislatively mandated rebidding on purchase contracts over time. Buyers seek sellers with best total offering and capabilities. In evaluating proposals, buying organizations seek to protect themselves from single source and inflexible price situations by seeking additional or alternative suppliers. The search for qualified, acceptable suppliers leads to a list of those suppliers who, in the view of the buying organization, can meet the need of the buying center. Depending on the stature of the buying organization, their reputation as a customer, and the nature of the supply opportunity, they may attract proposals from all or a few of the available qualified suppliers. If the buying organization is hindered by previous difficulties with suppliers or is experiencing other environmental situations, example, severe financial difficulties etc., the RFQ or proposal solicitation may require a marketing effort to appear attractive to potential suppliers. As discussed in Chapter 2, business markets are often oligopolies, with only a few companies having capabilities in any particular area. Many organizations may be capable of making exceptional one-of-a-kind items. That special cake that resulted from customization of the general recipe. But this capability does not automatically transfer to an ability to supply several thousand items each month. How big is that kitchen? Organizations, because they have many concerns they are trying to address in acquiring a product or service, seldom have the luxury of many choices. Yet the supplier is an integral part of the success or failure of the efforts of the buying organization. So business buyers must screen supplier organizations with regard to their capabilities beyond the creation of one component. Years in business, size and reputation, manufacturing capacity, ISO certification, and customer service commitment are among the screening factors in addition to the supplier's product quality and ability to meet the technical specifications. These screening factors can be the most difficult for a supplier to satisfy, especially for small, technology-oriented, young company without a track record of large volume production, such as a firm before the chasm. The classical process of supplier selection implies that the buying center weighs all factors as defined by the specification and selects the supplier that best meets those specified needs. If there is an outstanding provider, the selection among potential suppliers can be obvious. However, all facets of the offer come into play, those qualifiable as well as those value chain features that are not as easily measured. Assuming that all potential suppliers are qualified and that all have met the minimum performance requirements specified, the buying center selects from a group of providers who have worked very hard to meet the specification. The problem with this, from the supplier's viewpoint, is that in all their hard work to create an offering as described by the specification, they have probably accomplished exactly the worst outcome, to be just like each other, with no differentiation. Under such circumstances, the supplier selects the supplier with the lowest price. From this result comes the entrenched myth that the successful supplier is the one that offers the lowest price. This does not follow good marketing logic. Why would suppliers want to work to be just like each other? Smart suppliers work very hard to distinguish their offerings from each other. Market-driven suppliers do not use price as a marketing tool, but will look to the buying center broad and diverse needs to assemble an added value approach that demonstrates qualitatively the advantages of their offer. This does not mean to imply that price is not important. It is, but competitive offerings need to be distinguished in other ways as well. The buying center eventually arrives at a decision on which supplier it chooses. The final selection may be contingent on negotiations on some of the solution's features, on terms of the contract, or even on the final price. The selection stage reaches completion when the contract is signed. Stage 3. Solution delivery. Once chosen, the supplier begins the process of delivering on its promises. This portion of the overall process may take a longer period of time than the first two stages combined. When the product is complex and involves a high degree of customization and even technical development, this stage is an extended set of activities. The solution delivery stage ends when the delivery is complete and approved by the buying organization. An astute supplier already involved in the definition and selection stages already has, in many cases, had its offering approved or is proceeding through the approval process. Activities that can be included in this stage include all solution development that remains to be done, customization of the product or service based on a diagnosis process, testing of early versions of the solution, delivery prototypes and incorporation into manufacturing trials, installation and testing of the full-scale solution, training of the buyer's employees who will operate the solution or interact with the service provider, resolution of any supply chain or logistics management issues, and perhaps other readiness activities. The process of merging the supplying logistics of the supplier with the consumption logistics of the consumer occurs during this stage. It is incumbent on the supplier to match the operational buying needs of the customer. Suppliers must recognize how their customers buy and meet that pattern. The transaction process should be routinized in a way that it is invisible to the buying organization. The customer will want such things as materials planning, shipping quantities, inventory location, delivery times, and invoice routiness. Example, the utilities of business logistics form, time, place, and possession to match their existing methods. How the supplier delivers on its promises up to this point is watched closely by the buying organization. All through this delivery stage, the buying organization evaluates how good the supplier is and what the likelihood is of a good working relationship in the future. If the supplier can provide this value during the delivery stage, it stands a good chance of making a successful transition into future buying decisions.